Welcome back, everyone. I'm Danny the Dinosaur Drawer, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to draw the Indoraptor full body from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So here is our reference image. So let's dive right in. I'm using my Graph Gear 500 mechanical pencil to start us off. We're just going to be putting in an outline. But yeah, we got a first map out where everything's going to be on this page. So let's draw an oval right there for the head. Then we're going to sort of draw almost like the skeleton of the Indoraptor before we really get into any more detail. You don't want to make it too big, so oftentimes I start off with the head being too big and then I can't fit the rest of it on the page. So I'll try not to make that mistake. So we're going to put a nice oval shape for the body there. Indoraptor is a very slender dinosaur. So its neck is going to have a nice curve there. So yeah, be sure to take your time when doing your outline because it's very important to get the proportions right. Nice curve there for the tail. I'm putting in the thigh right now. The femur, I guess, is what that bone is called. The ankle. I'm going to put this back foot right about here. This other foot, this other leg is also going to be bent. And it's going to be right behind that first one. Now, Indoraptor is going to be crouching on all fours on this picture. So let's be sure to put in its arms. It's got a very slender body, and I want the neck to sort of arch up. So I'm going to put the elbow right about there. And the other arm like so. I might want to make this leg a little bit further back, and this one bring the foot a little higher because we want the ground to be right about here, and I don't want to make the front arms too long in proportion. So yeah, this looks like a good outline. We got all the basics put in. I think we can go ahead to the next part of the video, which is going to be putting in more detail in and just refinement and making it look more like a dinosaur than this. So let's start with the head. We're going to be working left to right so we won't smudge. Since I'm right-handed, I'm going to be working this way. For the head, we got to make sure the jaw is open because that always looks cooler. And we want to make it look very much like a raptor. Because I've drawn Indoraptor several times, and almost every time it ends up looking like a T-Rex. Like a T-Rex head at least. So I want to try and avoid that today. So we're putting in an eye ridge right now. Let's go ahead and put in the eye of the Indoraptor. Be sure to put an eyelid. Put a little bit of shading there. And of course the eyeball, like so. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to erase part of the bottom, or part of the jaw there, and we're going to put in little areas where we can put in teeth. So it almost looks like we're drawing castle battlements. And in each of those little areas, or in each little notch, you can add a vicious looking tooth. Now, before we draw any more teeth, I would recommend you draw them bigger than you actually think you're gonna want them, because when you're putting black in the background, it makes the teeth look very much smaller. So Indoraptor's got very crooked teeth. Definitely needs to go see a dentist. But it makes the animal look more savage. So yeah, the nose is going to be right about here. And let's put in the other side of the jaw. And here we are going to, let's just put in the bottom jaw in first before we add the teeth to the other side. So just put in the jaw at a slight angle so it's open. If you want to measure it so the bottom jaw is about the same length as the top one, because oftentimes I'll see people's drawings and they've drawn the bottom jaw too long or sometimes too short. So you almost want to take your pencil and just imagine if it was to shut, what the jaw would look like. So the jaw tends to be more slender in the center, in the middle right there. And again, since it's got all those crooked teeth, I'm going to put in these grooves. And each tooth has a lot of separation in between, like each tooth is very separated from the other. So it's much different than a regular raptor. And that's what makes this animal look like it's very genetically modified. And of course I want to have the tongue sticking out like so. That always makes the animal look more vicious. And then again, we're going to draw the other side there and add teeth onto the other side. And we also do the same thing to the top jaw there. Like so. So let's just take our erasers and erase a little bit of the jaw there. So oftentimes, at least for me, the head of Indoraptor is the hardest thing to draw, just because I never actually really capture the look. Ends up looking more like another dinosaur, but hopefully this one will actually turn out to look like the Indoraptor. So yeah, if you have a shading pencil set, I definitely recommend you get yours out. I'm going to be using my Arteza pencils right here. But yeah, as I've said before, if you have a regular pencil, that's fine. Just press a little harder down onto your paper if you want to get a darker tone. But yeah, if you have shading pencils, I recommend you get those out, because right now we're going to be coloring in between each of these teeth in the top jaw, because all this area is going to be very shaded. Now the Indoraptor does have a very dark color to it, but today we're not really going to be making it actually darker. Like, we're not going to color it in all black, you know. We'll add shading and stuff. And if you want, you can give the whole thing a whole darker tone, like I'm doing right now for the part of the head. I'm going to focus today on showing you guys how to do scales and shading and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're coloring it in, then that's a good idea to actually color it black, of course. So yeah, also the bottom of the tongue will be a little bit shaded, like so, and the bottom here is going to be shaded, but not as dark as the top. And also the other muscle there that opens and closes the jaw, it will be shaded in. Let's add some shading to the bottom jaw there. It's looking very nice. See, I seem to have lost my eraser pencil, which is really annoying because I loved that tool a lot. But yeah, using a big eraser can be fine. You just have to be a little careful, because I can oftentimes make mistakes. So let's see, we've got to clean up a tiny bit here in the bottom jaw. I always seem to take away a little bit of what I didn't mean to erase when I'm using my big eraser. So let's see. The one thing we could add right now to make this the head of the Indoraptor look more complete is to add scales. So doing scales is not that difficult. You just do a bunch of little round circles. I'm not going to be doing all the scales right now because I'll probably do that at some point in time lapse, just to make the tutorial a little bit shorter, because these can end up to be like almost an hour long, which is amazingly long. That's a very long YouTube video if you ask me. I don't like making it into two-part videos, but sometimes I have to if it's really that long. Like in my Captain America versus Iron Man, that was a big drawing, so it took had to be a two-part video. So yeah, now we're putting in the snake-like neck of the Indoraptor. It's very much like a backward S shape, like so. And I'd recommend you, before we start putting in more detail, to erase the lines we don't need, so we won't have to come back and erase later. So Indoraptor has some very cool quills that come out of the top of the neck. So we're going to put those in. And it's also got some spikes. So let's see if I have another pencil that might work a little better. Just got some spikes. And this is what makes it look sort of like the Indominus Rex. It's got 2 rows of them. Like so. And each one you can shade a little bit like I'm doing right now. So just shade the bottom side of each one, like so. I'm going to shade a little bit of the first row. There we go. So even though this drawing is going to be just like a black and white drawing, Indoraptor does have a yellow stripe. So we'll put that stripe in, but just leave it a bit of a lighter tone so it stands out a bit. So let's go ahead and put that in. It's going to continue along the tail, but I don't want to get too concentrated with the other parts of this drawing. It's better to focus on one part first. So one thing I forgot to tell you guys is it's good to put shading on the bottom edge of the top jaw, like so. The lip right here. It's going to give the drawing, it's going to make it look more curved, you know. That's what we want to do. We want to make the jaw look like it's actually got shape to it and it's not just a two-dimensional thing. That can be hard sometimes. So like I'm doing right now, make sure each of your strokes is kind of curved. Like so. So yeah, the head looks pretty good. I might touch it up a little bit later, but for now I'm just going to leave it. And we can do a bunch of curved strokes with our pencil right about here for the upper portion of the Indoraptor's neck. And now for the lower part, the lower half, we're going to do long lines like so. It's got a bunch of veins in its neck, and this part is also going to be shaded in a little more because it's the lower part. Especially right here under the bottom jaw. Like so. So you have to do a bunch of strokes with your pencil. Make sure they're all curved. Very good. It's almost better if you use your eraser for this yellow part. So it looks more natural that way. So let's see, the next part we're going to be working on is the back. This can be a little complicated because of the plates, but you really shouldn't be that afraid of drawing plates because they're all exactly the same. So I do have my brush here, so I shouldn't be blowing off the eraser bits. So keep the line very faint because we're going to be drawing over that. So the plates get very large as they get near the back here. And they're all overlapping each other. And then it's got some more quills right over the hip there, but we don't want to get too carried away. Let's begin the next section. So these are not, I wouldn't really call these spikes, I'd call them plates. But on these, the second row of plates, there are a bunch of spikes. It looks like about 2 spikes per plate. You can do that just by drawing these triangles. But see, right now it looks kind of fakeish, I'd say. So that's where you have to add in your shading. So let's see, I'm going to get my 2B pencil out here. I'll shade each of these plates in the first row. Now keep in mind that the plates are all like black. They're the same color as the skin of the Indoraptor. So they're naturally going to be darker. And the only reason there's a light spot there is because of the light reflection. Lighting is so important when it comes to art and photography and everything. And filming too. So you sort of want to give a little bit of shading for each of these little spikes, just to make them look more 3D, I guess, make them look more real. Because if they just look like triangles, then they're not going to look like they're actually. You sort of want to fool the eye of the viewer of the drawing, make it actually look like it's 3D, 3-dimensional. So there we go. We got the second row completed. Then here is not really plates anymore, just larger scales. So we're going to be putting that in. The scales here are very large. It's got overall pretty rough skin, I'd say. We got to keep in mind that we're going to have that yellow stripe. Let's take our erasers and just erase all this mess that we created with the outline. We still pretty much know where everything is though, which is good. And I think before we continue on with the torso area, we need to put in the arms. So hands can be difficult, but for me they're a little easier than feet, to me personally, but I'm not sure about you guys. Every person's different. Like, I think human hands are very difficult, but when it comes to dinosaur claws, it's really not that bad. Let's go ahead and just shade lightly at this upper arm. And remember, we're not really looking completely from a side view of the Indoraptor, we're sort of looking from an angle. So we gotta have some floor here, so a shadow. And this hand will be resting right about there, and this one right here, this foot back there, and this one here. So you can see we're looking from an angle, because if we were looking completely from a side view, both hands would be exactly the same. But they're not in the reference image, so that's how we're going to be drawing it. Yeah, it's important to to know where the ground is. Otherwise, you can make some limbs too long and others too short. So the Indoraptor has a muscular forearm. I want to make it quite thick right about this point, and then gets thinner as it goes into a wrist right about here. Then we can erase and give us space to work. So Indoraptor does have, I think, four claws. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not. Does it have three? I'm pretty sure it has like a little thumb claw. Just from this angle in the reference image, it only shows 3 claws at a time. But I'm positive it has 4, even though we might not be drawing in 4, because we won't be able to see each claw. So each one you want to make nice and long. This is one of the Indoraptor's greatest weapons. Definitely the claws. That scene where the Indoraptor runs its claws through Macy's hair is so scary. That was one of those horror movie moments. So I hope you all have seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It's been a year since it came out, so I assume most of you have. So we have 3 claws in right now, but we know there's 4, so we're just going to draw a little line there for the other one, and maybe a little bit of the claw, just hinting that there's another one there. And let's go ahead and put some circular scales on top of each finger, like so. Very good. Now let's take a shading pencil and we can shade the bottom of each finger a bit, like so. Maybe a little in between. And then of course, the forearm, we have to put in some nice shading. And some coloring too. The Indoraptor's got dark skin, so you have to think about that. So that looks pretty good. Let's add some little bit of shadow beneath it, and we can go ahead to the next arm. Now, if your pencil does have like a back end to it with an eraser, I recommend you use that over a big eraser because it's just a little harder to control the big eraser, like I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to thin the arm up a bit there. So yeah, we're gonna put in the shoulder right about here. So I'm gonna have a bunch of wrinkles. The shoulder blade continues up right about there. So let's put in the deltoid, which is basically just the name of the shoulder muscle right there. We're drawing the upper arm, the elbow. Still following the outline we put in, so it's been quite helpful. So I say the upper arm of the Indoraptor is very short. So I'm just gonna erase and give us some more space right now. So the elbow's right there. The wrist is gonna be right here. And we can start putting in the claws, which will be splayed out on the floor here. So again, I'm going to erase. You just need some space. You don't want to have a messy drawing. Let's put in the center claw, which will be the largest. Then it's got that other claw, but it'll be more going in that direction, like so. So I hope you guys don't mind. I'm just going to erase these two claws, because I feel like I didn't make them long enough. This one's pretty good. Just need to work on the claw. And then this middle one, I just want to make it a little longer. Like so. See, this arm was actually surprisingly difficult. I don't know why. I was struggling a bit. Let's add some nice lines like so. Make sure they're curved to give the impression that each arm has actually got a curve to it, you know, it's not, they're not 2D. So good, we have both arms done. This one still looks a tiny bit too small to me, this hand, but I think it's fine. Okay, now we can put in the chest right about there. And finally we can continue on to the torso. So Indoraptor's got a very slender body. I want to have a nice bend to it. In fact, I'd say it's got less stomach right here. It's actually very thin at the chest and then gets a little wider near the hips. Like so. It's got thick back legs, but they're quite short because it has to be able to go on all fours. So it's got long front limbs and relatively short back ones. So put in the thick thigh right there. We'll put in a calf. I've got a heel right about there. So here's where the outline really does help, because it's all in position already. Let's draw this large slashing claw, one of the main weapons. Then two other claws. I'm pretty sure it has a dew claw, so let's put that in right there. So this foot is facing straight at us, which is kind of a difficult angle to draw it from. It's sort of splayed out, like so. This next leg is going to be bent a little bit more. But you want to make sure you're making the lengths of each different arm, but like pretty much the same. So they want like the calf of both legs to be the same. And for instance, on this arm here, I think the upper arm was not long enough and the forearm was a little bit too long. So I will try and fix that right now. Keep on eyeing it even while I'm trying to focus on here. So yeah, make this upper arm a little bit longer. Apologize for that mistake. So this leg is going to be very shaded in, so don't worry too much about it. You just want to get the overall outlying lines. It's going to be almost like a silhouette. So just put in the claw again. That large slashing claw. So this claw is going to be slightly bent up like so, but the other ones will be actually more touching the floor. Right there. Let's also put in the little dew claw. And again, put in some ground. So there, we got this foot pretty much done. So yeah, let's go ahead and get out a shading pencil, because we're really going to put it to work here. We want to get this nice dark tone for the thigh. It's looking good. Then we can lighten up a tiny bit as we get to the calf. As we get to the lower leg, and get a little lighter. And we want the feet to stand out a little bit. Let's go ahead and put in the scales on top of the toes. The same we did on the hands. And since scales are usually shinier, the large scales here are pretty shiny, so we want to have some light shining off of that. And then let's erase a little bit of the mess that got inside this large claw. I'm going to shade that lightly. So next, let's put in some more lines for the stomach here. Same long lines that we used for the bottom of the neck. The armpit, you want to have it nice and dark. See, do you have anything darker? So I got a 6B pencil that should be pretty dark. Because we want this to not look like it's part of the leg. So we can do that by making it look a little darker. So one thing you can't really do with like a Graph Gear 500 mechanical pencil or any mechanical pencils, you can't really cover a lot of ground with it unless you do tons and tons of small strokes like I'm doing right now. But with like a nice shading pencil, once it's got like a blunt edge to it, you can really cover a lot of ground with it, which is nice. So again, we're going to be going from top to bottom, making vertical lines like we did in the neck there. So we want to have 2 lines like so, they look like parentheses, and that's for the leg muscles there in the thigh. And let's continue using this nice shading pencil and give it some nice curvy lines. This is really taking some nice shape now. Leave a light spot right there. See, when you're putting in a lot of shading and all this coloring, you really don't need that much scales. but you could add a few, like I'm doing right now. So for the larger body parts, make the scales a little larger. Like if you're drawing them on the head, don't draw them extremely large. But here on the thigh, you can make them about this size. And take your time. If you go too fast, you can get messy like I'm doing. I was right here, and a few of them got on top of each other. But you want to make each one very clean. So that's just an example of how you can use scales to make the drawing look a little bit more realistic. And again, I will time lapse that near the end of this tutorial, so the end result will look very, very cool. So again, we're just basically coloring in gray area, large areas with the shading pencil here. I'm gonna take out like a 2B pencil, 2 or 3B for this foot. Make nice dark lines so it really stands out, like so. So our poor Graph Gear 500 mechanical, I don't know if you're using a Graph Gear 500 mechanical pencil, but mine's not getting very much work today. So I'm just going to use it right now to put in those scales on top of the toes. But as you can see, it's quite light. And let's just outline these claws a little bit. Like so. I feel like this one should be outlined a little bit more. I'll add some soft shading. Remember, this foot is going to be more in the sunlight than that one over there, so it doesn't have to be that dark. So yeah, guys, I'm going to change the tail up a bit, make it a little longer. It's going to be right about here. It's going to be curved. So yeah, Indoraptor, similar to all raptors, has a very long tail. It gets quite thin at the end. So yeah, start off thick and then get it very slender near the end here. So yeah, raptors used their tails for balance purposes. As cheetahs and a lot of fast running animals sometimes will use their tails for balance and stuff, or to help them turn, you know. So I'm gonna just add some more of these plates / spikes, and then we can add in the quills. And by the way, these spikes these plates get very small. By the end of the tail, it gets very smooth. So I'd say the quills start right about here. And it almost looks like there's 2 rows of them. So don't make them all the same length. Make some of them shorter, others longer. Make some more straight, make some more bent, to make it look more natural. I wish it still had them on its forearms like the Indominus Rex. It might, but I can't remember. In this reference image, it doesn't. So yeah, we're going to continue the plates along here. So I'm going to just draw like a section of the tail, maybe up to this line, and I will time lapse the rest. But I'm just going to show you guys how to draw in this first section. So first and foremost, you want like the bottom part to be the darkest area. I'm drawing this part especially dark to make this thigh stand out a bit. And again, just like we did in the stomach and the neck, these lines will be horizontal and curved. Then after that, you're gonna have a bunch of curved vertical lines. And you don't want to bring them all the way down to the center here because of that yellow stripe. I'm using my Graphic 500 for that, but yeah, shading pencil would probably do the job a little quicker. Like so. I just realized that I keep on saying like so many times. And again, we're going to put some shading in for these plates. And then they fade into the tail, as you will see once I draw it in with time lapse. And one last detail is that the stripe here it doesn't really go over the leg, you know, even though it might have looked like I left a white spot here, but it really doesn't. So it starts up right about here, so you want to be a little thin here, and then it gets thicker as it gets further down the tail, and then again it's going to get thinner near the end there. And before I switch to time lapse, let's add a little bit of a stomach to the Indoraptor just to give it a little bit more shape. And you can do that by making it a little darker on these four corners, which will give the center here, make it look like it's a little more rounded and make it pop a little bit more. See, already it looks more 3D, doesn't it? Just adding some last minute details. I know I've been smudging a little bit, which is unfortunate, but we'll clean up near the end. So yeah, I'm gonna switch to time lapse mode. I will see you guys in a bit. So as you can see, I've put in the tail, I added some scales, refinement, this and that. And now we really just have to put in a little bit of shading, a little bit of a shadow underneath our Indoraptor. And then we'll sign our drawings and we'll be done. And I'm going to sign my name, right, or just my initials, right here next to the tail. Let's use a darker pencil. And I will put in the date, because that's always very important. So yeah, guys, be sure to comment below what you'd like me to draw next. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.